Hi everyone, this is your LabWrite review. So in class we talked about a website called LabWrite for Students, and that was brought to you by the North Carolina State University. And so if you go to LabWrite for Students on Google, it will take you directly to the site you need. And this is what we used in class to discuss what the expectations are for a lab report here at STEAM. So, if you remember, going into your pre-lab, we looked at the student designed lab because I asked you to choose what you were going to change about the original potato lab. There is the self-guide that we used in class, but there are also the handout and the tutor ways of going over this material. So, for the self-guide, you select this top right box, and it brings you to your pre-lab questions. So, these 5 questions are going to be referenced when you are writing your introduction for this report. So, I am not going to collect them individually, but you will want to go over the answers so that it will make your writing process faster. Now, in class, we also talked about what is this scientific problem. And so if you do the click here, they're going to describe how you identify the topic and problem within the topic. In this case, the topic is osmosis. And the problem within the topic was you needed to verify for yourself that what happened in Mr. Anderson's potato lab results is what you see for osmosis as well. So if you go ahead and skip to the post lab, and again select the student design lab report, it's going to provide you with step-by-step instructions on how to write your reports. So I think that the descriptions are pretty straightforward, but let me go ahead and tell you some of my expectations. So, the method section. You already wrote your protocol for me and submitted it to Canvas. Or you followed the directions that I provided you on the half sheet of paper in class. Now, you're going to take those steps that you wrote, put it into paragraph form, and you already have written it in the past and passive voice. So it'll be super easy. This section can be the same as your partner. Section 2, we have the results. And so when we are looking at our results, we have to represent them in tables and graphs and other kinds of figures. In this case, I expect a table of your values, but also a graph. And you can see my Jing videos that I posted to Canvas that explain what I want you to do in order to make your digital version of those graphs. If you don't have access to either Google Docs or to Microsoft Office, you can scan in or take a picture of the original and submit it as well. So, with the results, you're going to describe in a couple sentences the overall result of the lab. So, what did you see occur? Now, it's weird. They're giving you these steps in the most logical sequence of how to write it, but this isn't going to be the sequence of how you write it in the report. You're going to reorder the section. For the introduction, they are going to send you to the pre-lab questions that you worked on before. So again, you can find those by clicking on the pre-lab tab at the top and selecting the type of lab report that we are working on. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that answer and turn it into a paragraph form. So you do not have to have perfect answers the first time. You just need to have the answers to those questions in order to come up with the appropriate paragraphs. The next section they have you write, again, not in the order that you would typically write this, you're going to work on your discussion. And so that's where you interpret the results of your lab. So what does it all mean? If the potato gained mass, what does that say about osmosis and how osmosis is occurring in the situation? What is it moving towards? Explain equilibrium a little bit here. The conclusion is where you're focusing on what you learned, okay? And so remember, our problem in the very beginning was, is the result the same as in the original potato lab with what you changed? So this is where you summarize what you have learned about this concept. And in our case, again, that's osmosis. So with the abstract, you are going to actually be able to do this way easier than when I learned how to write this as a beginning college student. So, they just want you to summarize each of the major sections. They tell you what those are right here. You write just one sentence for each one, They said 2 if it's a really complex section. In this case, our lab was pretty straightforward and you shouldn't have to do that. Then you string them together in a way that makes sense. You can add some transition words to make it sound a little smoother, and you are good to go. Now the title, I want it to be more than the potato lab, okay? So talk a little bit about what you were testing and what we were studying in this experiment. Now references are something you may or may not have for this experiment. We worked from this LabWrite website for instructions on how to write it. If you don't talk about anything on this site, then there's no need to reference it there. If you used any other resources to explain your results, make sure you do reference those so that you don't get in any trouble over plagiarism. Remember that we have some great tools like EasyBib for citing our sources. So you can go, it has MLAs already free. You can enter your website address that you used. You can go ahead and click on the book title or the journal name of where you got your information. You just click the Cite This button and it makes it all for you. Now, I do want your paper to also follow the MLA format. And so the Purdue OWL website is a great example of how to do this general form. So if you scroll down, they show you even an example of this first page. If I go over to this Word document that I've started as an example for writing this report, I have the skeleton of an MLA paper intact here. Now I told you that the sections you were writing according to that website were not in order. So in this case you're going to want to rearrange them like this. So obviously your title is going to come first after your information. 2, do the abstract first, then your introduction, then your methods, then your results, discussion, and then conclusion. If you have any references, those will just go at the end as with any paper. So please feel free to email me any questions, post to Canvas any questions, or talk to me in class before the deadline of Tuesday night at midnight.